That's not good, because that's my main mic. I've only had static when I have the 6 people in room. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Manda, as always.
Yeah, it's definitely there.
It is? What the? What? Lots and lots of static. Okay, well, that's actually helpful because it's just one mic.
Huh. Yeah, oh, at the moment. Oh, that's because you're not there. And hello, everyone. Boba Kin, QW Fate, and 2000 Caesar.
Still hearing static?
Yeah.
Only when I talk?
It's like when you talk and then, like shortly after, and then it stops.
I swear, dude, I'm so frustrated. I have no idea. It makes no sense. There's one mic on. It's the... All right, so I'm going to mute and tell me in 5 seconds there's still static.
I am not hearing any static. No static at the moment. There we go. Static again.
Still?
Yep. Before you even started talking, there was static.
Well, yeah, because I should have muted. But so, all right, I think I'm gonna have to kill this mic. This is the newest, most expensive mic. I don't know what's going on. These things are going through.
Hey, everyone.
Static?
No.
I lost another mic. Okay, time to change mic manufacturer. That's the third I've lost, Rob. And these are not cheap mics. I've lost 3 now, so it's clearly a
Yeah.
problem with these mics.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the audio quality coming from that. I mean, it's not staticky, but it's not great either.
You mean currently?
Yeah, I mean, you sound okay, but it's not like the clearest microphone I've ever heard. So yeah, you're going for a new mic manufacturer probably sounds like a good idea.
I mean, you sound fine to stream. All right, well, let's just run it. We'll figure it out later. Welcome, everyone. It is Blue Box, and we are ready for Loremaster's Arcanum Incredible 123. So excited to be with you, and here we go, kicking off live in 3, 2, and 1. Robert, you will be both heard and seen. All right, welcome everyone. We're talking traps, tricks, and puzzles. We've had this topic before, Robert. It's been quite a while, and it is, I think, a great thing to have in any DM's cadre of tools. So for you as a DM, we'll start off tonight. Well, actually, let me start by saying thank you. All the Mad Chatters, amazing night last night. So many compliments, recognition, gifts, subs. It was amazing. Thank you all for the support. It's been amazing. But tonight, we're talking about how to make your players think. And I think that the most important part of this topic is that you don't want everything to be just combat or just roleplay. And Rob, I'm going to let you start us off tonight and probably lean on you quite a bit tonight because I've got some things to show. But I know you have tricked, trapped, puzzled, and riddled many of your players. So why don't you start us off?
Well, I've done plenty of traps, puzzles and riddles. I've started to shy away from a bit because things can come to a grinding halt, but with the party doesn't get it, and then it's figuring out how to work around that. But yeah, traps. I love me some traps. Traps are always a fun thing. And I love this example with all the different types of traps.
So we'll give examples of those, and we'll talk about all of them. But I think let's go up a level. And in D&D, when you're running a game, think of all snarky. Yes, Greg. Thank you, everyone. I love the Mad Chat. It's always fun. It really helps us with these shows. So, what are the types of elements you can have in your game? You've got combat, right? Role play, traps, travel, riddles, puzzles, terrain. What else?
Traps, riddles, puzzle, terrain.
Did I hit them all? I might have. I don't, like in the chat, like
Apparently this is a puzzle.
romance. Yes, romance. Well, that's in role play. I think romance is a subtype of role play. It's
exploration. Exploration is the
exploration. I said travel. Yeah. So romance goes in role play. Travel goes in exploration. What else?
I mean, combat, obviously, we mentioned.
I said combat. Yeah, I'm not trying to like trick you, but I think there's a limited quiver that we can pull from as DMs, and
and ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, this is why I am not a big fan of puzzles and riddles in my roleplay games.
Because you don't like to be asked hard questions?
Because sometimes the brain just does not want to turn on.
I love that. So the brain does not want to turn on sometimes.
I mean, that should not have been a hard question. Yeah. This is the kind of thing where you ask players to solve a puzzle where 2 + 2, and they're going with 5 and purple and other things.
Well, there is the biggest puzzle of all, which is real life, right? So we all have things going on, and it's part of the challenge we have to bring our attention to the game. But definitely, Rob, it is always a challenge, and we love our puzzles, riddles, and tricks. So in the chat many opportunities. I have the Discord up. I have the stuff we pulled up. I've got a website ready to go. But in your games, Rob, what's your favorite type of puzzle to incorporate? Any type of puzzle in your D&D games. Is it the typical boulder rolling down? I'm sorry, typical sounds so like disparaging. I don't mean it that way, but like the boulder coming down, the spikes coming up, the door slamming shut.
It honestly depends on where, where they are. I love me a good pit trap, especially this example with the spikes at the bottom. I do like things like doors slamming shut, or especially like a portcullis that is ultra heavy slamming down. If those of you who have been through the moat house and have done that that particular trap, it kind of forces the party into confrontations that they might otherwise have tried to avoid. So things that it's a good way, a fun way, honestly. If you I'm not one for railroading, but if you need the party to go in a certain direction, having things slam behind them is a good way to do it.
So not my intent tonight, but I love what you just said. Not railroading the party, but if the door slams shut, guiding the party, how does that work for a DM?
Sure. I mean, when the only way out is through, suddenly retreat is not an option. If a cave in or a boulder rolls into place, I mean, granted, depending on the level of the party, they might be able to find a way around that. But even then, that's still a role-playing opportunity. Something that forces the party either to come up with a alternate solution for getting past the obstacle, or forces them to look for another way out, is that can be a fun one.
I love it. So you said alternate solution. I'm going to come back. Twy just said, I like anything that makes the players think. Strategies, especially if there are multiple ways to go about success. That's what you just said, Rob. So I think ultimately this is when you're gaming as a DM or as a player, like, do you want everything to be so linear, obvious, combat, open role play? You like being challenged, and having that challenge be multifaceted is what makes a trap, a puzzle, a trick, a riddle fun.
As long as I mean, there may be cases where you decide that failure is not. You have to ask the question with regards to something like a riddle and puzzle, especially riddles and puzzles. You have to decide whether or not failure is going to bring your whole game to a crashing halt. If you're okay with the players not being able to get past the puzzle and riddle and get to whatever is hidden behind it, that's fine. And maybe it's just a final objective. They just weren't able to do it, and they go back, saying that they failed in their mission, so on and so forth. If that is going to, basically break your game, then you have a different problem, and you need to have alternate ways for them to get past it. The problem comes in the fact that if the players know that there's going to be an alternate way past it, they may tend to shy away from even trying the riddle.
Therein lies the rub. Well said. So there's 3 or 4 really good points in the chat. Rob, why don't you read those? Any you like sloth.
Let's start with one that Amanda pinned. From Justinius. Last session, my party entered an elevator and pulled the wrong lever. The one that releases the elevator instead of making move down slowly. They're plummeting to their doom until the druid cast stone shape on the elevator, expanding the width of the elevator so it braked against the sides of the shaft. Interesting. From Boba, my hardest part from the player side is knowing what my character think of this. I played a low-end character, and I personally love riddles. It was tough not giving answers but the character wouldn't. And I think we've discussed that before. The problem with puzzles and riddles can also come in a form of, how are you with metagaming? Or are you okay with your player having their character know something that they wouldn't for the sake of getting the game going? How do you handle that?
Right. Well said. And Tracy, I'm Devine, said, how's everybody? Everybody's not as good as you are because you won the big giveaway last night, Tracy. You are better than everyone tonight. The hardest part from the player side is knowing, would my character think of this? Yeah, puzzles, traps, tricks, these are tough to know how much you separate yourself from the player character, and it goes both directions, right? Because you might not think of something that your PC should with that intelligence of 17 or that wisdom of 16. So Rob, in your mind, how do you as a PC separate your skills, your ability, or as a DM to incorporate those into the game when maybe your PC and your player are not the same as far as any of those skill sets?
So one of the things that I would do if I do decide to go with the puzzle or riddle is make sure that the PCs that would have a better shot of knowing it, whether it's because they're high intellect or maybe even high wisdom, depending
right.
on which side of the equation the puzzle would fall upon, or even if it's something like the getting into the mines of Moria, would it occur to either an elf or a dwarf, honestly, to have understood what that puzzle meant or the purpose behind it was? Say friend and enter, or speak the word friend and enter. I would probably either give them hints or let them possibly even roll to see if they come up with something. And then there comes a point where, are you okay with the puzzle being solved just by rolls? Finally.
Are you?
Because for me personally, I try to avoid it because it doesn't feel as fun. It might depend on my players. If my players are okay with a straight up roll solving it after a certain amount of time, I'm not. I'm okay with that as well. But the problem then is how much time do you spend before your players are going to that role to try to figure it out? Because you don't want to be sitting there forever, trying to solve a puzzle. And what may seem obvious to you, and this is often the problem, may not be obvious at all to your players.
Have you ever had that, like, where you thought something was so clear to your players, and then and it takes them an hour to figure out what you thought was obvious?
It's been quite a while since that's happened, but then again.
Oh, for me, it's been like 4 weeks.
I've backed off a bit on that.
What about in the chat? Like, have you ever had that situation where you think as a DM, it's so obvious, like your player should pick it up, but you are surprised because maybe it's always the case when you know the answer, it seems easy. Watch a show with someone where you've already read the book and they're going to be slower than you think they should picking up the clues because you've read the book. That's just human nature, right?
Right. Yeah. Definitely. Someone brought up how many
times? Like every time, I think. It's like so my hints, I think the main idea tonight is don't listen to John on your traps, tricks, puzzles, and riddles, because I am always too hard. Every time they miss it.
Either that or somebody needs to basically be sitting there recording every word you said, including the inflections that you used.
That is important, yes. Isn't that what makes it a riddle? All right, so Rob, next one. Can a DM effectively incorporate traps without making it feel arbitrary or punitive? Because like sometimes players feel like, oh, you're just trying to make it hard for me, you're punishing me.
The first rule of traps is the traps need to make sense. So, if you have a long forgotten temple, or even a fallen temple where some magic item or some artifact is to be found, then it's okay to trap the place up, because the idea is nobody should be wandering around in there. Whoever decided that this is where the item is supposed to be and is going to be left, people should be dissuaded from ever trying to get to it. Now, trapping and having traps in, say, a hideout of some sort, whether it's something large like the, say, Temple of Elemental Evil, for example, or even a small hideout. There's the point where traps don't make as much sense. That you can have a trap here and there, but you have to take into account who the denizens of the place are. How
right.
Is this an area that they're constantly going to, and how likely are they to set off their own traps?
Right. Yeah. No. So dungeon ecology, trap ecology. Like, does it make sense in context? This is one of my biggest challenges with traps, puzzles, riddles. How do you put them in a place that makes sense? If I'm the kobold layer and I put some sort of clever, articulate riddle that makes no sense, I've failed. That's not good ecology.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, if you're, say, like putting a pit trap in a main thoroughfare in a dungeon, it's like, again,
they would have triggered
something. Yeah, is there something obvious or is there some obvious way that everybody else that already is here is not setting this thing off or not falling into it? It needs to make sense. And by that token, if you have a trap in that kind of dungeon, that should mean that there is something behind it that is protected. If you're going to put a trap in a dungeon where denizens are actively, inhabiting the place, and the trap is there, that should mean that trap is protecting something. So, don't have a trap and then the players, if they set it off or they find it or whatever the case may be, they go beyond it and then there's nothing. That's honestly that.
Why was the trap there? Yeah.
Yeah, it feels just there to. Gotcha the players.
That's a whole other topic, like cheapening the game. Like when the players feel like you just gotcha them. That's not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob, when have you felt that? Like where you gotcha'd? Like as a player, you just felt like the DM. We're off topic here, but this is to me so important. Like when you have a trap or a puzzle, it should feel like it's important. How does it make sense in the ecology? Give me an example of a time where you felt like, don't name the DM or the game, but just like the situation where you felt like someone gotcha'd you.
I mean, there were, I had been in a game where, it was like, not only was there a trap, but there was a trap like immediately after the trap. And, it was.
Wait, I did that to you. I did that to you. You're talking about me, aren't you?
That was not the game.
Okay. Because I thought mine was good.
But the DM thought it was funny to have, and this was back in the 1E 2E days where traps tended to be more, most traps tend to be deadlier. To put two deadly traps. One right after the other, and it's like, come on, I get the thinking behind it, but you're basically just telling your players, you're basically asking your game to come to a crawl, because in a game where especially if you're hiding or doing the find traps yourselves and not letting the players do it as a DM, now you're asking for your players to just not want to do anything. They're not going to want to go anywhere after that first time that happens because they can't trust it. They found the trap. Great. Okay, now we're going to spend another half hour trying to convince ourselves that there's not another one right here.
Well said. Well said. And mine did not do that. I like the idea behind so if you're going to trap something, have the trap behind the trap. So you have a flat surface where something can fall through, and they think that's the obvious trap, but there's something beyond that. If someone's going to be intelligent and try to trap something, it's okay for them to create a multi-layered trap, but it has to make sense in context of the area, right?
Yeah, I mean, and if the first trap, it's one of those things where, like, if I was going to pull something like that, it would be one of those things where the first trap has to seem, extremely obvious.
Yeah.
Right. Why is this even here? Anyone could have seen it. that might work, but the example I'm giving was not that.
All right, but that was not my game, right?
No. Most of the I can't remember the. Was it the virtual Greyhawk game?
Yes, yeah, maybe it was my game. So you guys came in the hallway, and there was a pit that fell through, and beyond the pit was a separate set of spikes that came from the side walls. Is that the one you're thinking of?
No.
Okay, all right. So I thought that was a good trap. You were hurting my feelings, Rob.
Sorry?
I'm teasing. All right, so in the chat, Pathfinder, you get XP for overcome. Yeah, I do that same thing. Yeah, anytime, Greg, that someone overcomes a trap, a puzzle, solves a riddle, any of that, I give XP for. That's why I do my XP style instead of milestones, because I like rewarding the PCs and players that are able to solve those things. I had 2 books of traps, and they never really worked out yet. Sam Curtis. First time, the Tomb of Horrors. We thought the mouth was the way to go. Party drove one after the other. The DM never said a word until. So, Rob, what about you? Because you run Tomb of Horrors. What do you think about what Jeff Moose 2271 is saying?
Tomb of Horrors is the adventure that you never ever run in a campaign. I still shudder to think that there are DMs who thought this was a good idea in a campaign. And the funny thing is, speaking of characters that died in the Tomb of Horrors, Gary Gygax killed his own son's character in the Tomb of Horrors. I believe it was to that trap, specifically.
Well, who hasn't killed their own son's character? I mean, come on, that's a rite of passage.
Of course, this is how we ended up with Melf, because Otis from was his original was one of his original characters, and Otis died in the Tomb of Horrors, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's just cool. I mean, I know it was more fashionable to just have, character after character back then, but come on.
Right. So let's take a look at this. So I've got a screen up here, which is the Hobby Lark. Dungeon puzzle ideas for D&D and other players. So we're going to come back to our Discord chat because we got a lot of good ideas in the Discord chat. So they've got many ideas here: door puzzles and traps, puzzles that require teamwork, rooms with various traps, environmental challenges, mysterious and dangerous encounters, illusions and hallucinations, mental and fear-based. I love all of these. If you watched the show last night, you know that we had a puzzle or a trap of types, which was based in role play. Statue puzzles, water-based puzzles, obstacles, gas traps. There's so many of these things, but what's on the other side? So again, we had puzzles to break up the content of the game and to create an interesting environment for the players to join. So in the chat, I'm going to pull up your Discord, but any of you pop in there, like your favorite traps, puzzles, or tricks that you've seen in the game. Mike said to wrap up the campaign with everyone dying. I'm not sure that's what I'm talking about here tonight. True. Yep.
I'm looking at remember, if you pull it from the internet, someone at your kid will Google it. Well, yeah.
And that's the one I said, yep. Yeah, I don't like Milestone either, but to each his own.
I do like, Pat66 brings up, he had an illusionist cast an illusion in front of a trap area to trick the PCs. And you know something? I consider that all part of the same trap. The illusion in front of the trap, yeah, that's a heck of an idea. That's an idea. It's one of the things, though, that the back in the day, it used to be every party walked around with a 10-foot pole, because you wanted to find those floor traps. You wanted to try to be able to set those things off. There are things that we used to do in dungeon crawls that you don't see much happen anymore.
That's a really good point. So I like that, Rob. I hadn't thought about it. So you're in a dungeon crawl, and you're playing D&D, so to look in a way that a normal adventurer would not perhaps look. So you have that 10-foot pole. What traps could you find with that 10-foot pole that you might not find without that 10-foot pole?
For starters, pit traps. that are hidden, that are hidden by carpeting, rugs or stuff like that. Possibly, depending on how kind you're being about it as GM, you might be able to find pressure plates.
Right, which would be
which could set off any kind of trap. It could be arrows coming from the walls.
So how would you handle it? So someone's got a 10-foot pole. How much weight would you typically require? They if they're tapping, they're pushing. You got a 30-pound plate of pressure with that 10-foot pole.
I mean, it depends on how hard you want to play it. If the player is, I mean, if you got the fighter doing it, I'm thinking the fighter is going to be putting some serious pressure down, if they, especially if they've got high strength. And not only that, the other thing about 10-foot poles, if you keep it low to the ground, you can set off tripwires.
No, it's true. Greg had the best point tonight. Anyone can find a trap. It's true. Anyone can. Yeah, they can.
And remember, I don't know how they do it now, but it used to be, or at least the way we split was find and remove traps as two separate roles. You could find a trap. Removing it was a different matter altogether.
Yeah, right.
I think it used the same skill, but you're not. But just because you found the trap didn't mean you were able to remove it.
Right. Yeah. Two separate, like disable, that the finding, the seeing, the disabling are two separate steps. In everything up to 3.5 and anything after that, I don't really pay attention to. So, how do you balance, Rob, how much a trap should challenge the players? Like, do you think it should just be a part of the game that breaks it up, or can you really challenge and push your players even unto death? And I've got an example I want to bring up in a moment, but for you as a DM, like, is a trick trap puzzle just part of the game that you let them walk through, or do you challenge them?
Well, I mean, one of the things to consider is who your player characters are, because one of the things that used to be a big thing is making sure you had the thief around because you needed someone to pick the locks, find the traps. They might not get if you're playing a heroic party and you've got a old school thief or rogue or whatever class it ends up being in that particular edition. You gotta have some way for them to shine, and this is where they become very valuable outside of combat. Because I mean, let's face it, it's not easy for them to, they're not going to want to be in the thick of things of combat if they can avoid it, at least in the older schools of gaming. So you need to have those kinds of things for them to do in order to basically give them their moment in the sun. And it's also important that the puzzles or the traps or whatever match where the party is at in their growth. I mean, you don't put straight out kill. Even in old school, if your trap is an insta kill, and I'm not talking because of the damage dealt. I'm talking like straight up death, save versus death, and you're playing with first level party. I'm questioning whether your decision making there, because they shouldn't expect to find those kind of traps in the things that they're in the places where they're adventuring.
Well said. And hello everyone, thank you for all the comments in the chat. And Rob, you hit an important point. Like the old school games, Temple of Elemental Evil, you've been on the precipice of running that. You've kind of run it a bit on FNC. I mean, I know you've run it before, but recently it's in FNC. It's very close, and you have literally some life and death, save, die traps. How do you feel about those as a DM?
It's weird. Actually, I'd have to go look at the low save or die. I haven't seen them yet, and I'm trying to remember if there are any on the other levels. The party hasn't come across any save or die yet. So I'm not. It's not my favorite thing in the world. Just because it's a very very, the whole players dying on a single roll seems
arbitrary,
punitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You can have a stroke of bad luck.
Yeah, but I'm a hypocrite with that with my crit tables. But I still agree with traps. It's hard to make them just they miss a roll on a trap and they die.
Yeah, I mean, I want if there's going to be a death mechanic, there's got to be a way. I'm of the type where I want there to be a way for the party, the player to come up with something quick to save themselves or find a way to save themselves.
We agree, Rob. What's going on here? We got to change the topic. This is a horrible topic. We're agreeing way too much tonight.
I point out that I did not choose the topic.
I know. Okay. All right. So now we disagree because I chose the topic. Yeah, fair enough. Arnhard said
We're back on track.
he thinks the traps, Xanthers, really helped him visualize traps more than just make a check or damage spell. All right. That's a good point. So bringing traps to life. Let's go there. So, hey, Jay, thanks for joining us. How do you bring a trap to life?
Ooh. Bringing a trap to life. Well, let me see. So, again, going back to dungeon ecology. I like there to be very. I'm not big on subtle hints for puzzles, but for traps. Yeah, that
Okay, so wait. So stop there. So that now I feel attacked because I'm big on subtle hints for puzzles. Why? Why don't you like subtle hints for puzzles?
Because subtle hints for puzzles, that's the point where it's really obvious to you, and you may the information that you think you're imparting, how you say something or pass information on may not be the way someone else takes that information in.
Isn't that what a puzzle's like? Isn't that what a puzzle is? So let's say I am an ancient lich and I scribe a rune upon my wall to trick players or to make it difficult. Do I know what their perspective might be 1,000 years later?
Well, I mean, straight up puzzle on the wall is one thing. I've seen some of your puzzles where there are things that you've said along the way that the players were supposed to have picked up on. And,
Yes.
To solve it.
Okay. I love it, Rob. Let's go. So this is not about tricks, traps, and puzzles. This is about Blue Box and our way of making these things challenging for players. So cast your imprecations or your votes for the way I do some clever and fun things in my game, which I expect players to pay attention across 5, 6, 7 episodes, or remember much later, which apparently is taken umbrage to. Fairly, I'm teasing Rob, but I think you're right. Actually, I think you're right.
So for like traps, things that might go mentioned is when something about the look of, if I've been describing a dungeon hallway as having a certain smell or having certain things on the walls or the floor looking a certain way, and then suddenly there's a shift in the way the next hallway looks, might be a sign that something's up. It could be the way the stonework looks. It could be that there's a sign that nothing has traversed this way in a long time. Suddenly there's no sign of foot traffic. There's the way the airflow is. Different things that might hint that not necessarily trap, but there's something different about this hallway. Get the player, try to get the players on their guard.
Okay, and you do that. And your player does not pay attention. And they're not on guard. Have you been too subtle?
Honestly, my players tend to search for traps everywhere. So, I don't know if it's because because they're picking up the hints or they're just, tired of running into traps, or we're playing Castles and Crusades where everything hurts and could possibly kill you. So they're extra careful for the most part, when they're looking on, when they're going down any given hallway.
I like that. So Art Hard said, if a player's abilities or stats are taken into account when determining puzzle hints, high arcane or knowledge related to the puzzle should be, I agree, that should be encountered. That's a great point, Art Hard. Intelligent characters may be able to recognize patterns, things that other are not as high intelligence characters would not recognize. That's how you reward players. Now, you have natural bonuses to that, but I think DMs should be, I do that all the time. I adjust what I feed to players based on their characters.
Absolutely. I mean, and regardless of whether you're doing traps, thank you, or just basically on any kind of adventure, the information you should impart to your character, I mean, there'll be the main piece of it. And then if there's anything particular that one of the PCs or more, and it doesn't have to be the same thing for all of them, some of them pick up on, feed them that information, make them that, it's their time. Give them that little bit extra so that they feel validated for the choice of characters that they've made, and they're not just, they're just not there to be the meat shield, or they're not just there to be the person casting spells when, healing spells or whatever the case may be.
No, sorry, go ahead.
You want to give them that feel that there is more to their character. There's more to their character than they're just I'm feeling this role. I think that's give their character some depth.
No, that's a really good point you made, because ultimately you want to reward the character for their class. And you talked about this earlier, Rob. The rogue, the intellectual character who maybe is feeling dismissed in the heat of martial combat can feel more important when you're solving these types of challenges or encountering these types of puzzles, traps. That's important as a DM, to give that player a chance to shine with their PC.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of trying, and I do it. I would hope my Friday night players would agree with me. I do it constantly by rewarding the half orcs in CNC who have a sense of higher sense of smell.
Right.
The races that have better hearing, those who have better eyesight, giving them something different or something beyond what the others are picking up.
Makes sense. All right, so a good question from Greg Justinius. We talked about the reverse, which is when the player is playing a PC and the player is a little more intelligent than the PC is. But what about the reverse? When the PC is more intelligent, how do you adjust for that to allow that player who is, I am maybe not as clever as my 18 wizard, and I'm asking questions. How do you help that?
So, I mean, and this goes back to, actually, we touched on it just a little earlier, where I mentioned how, the difficulty with puzzles is, well, how are you with metagaming? Because that becomes a question of metagaming. You know something your character, I mean, there's a chance, but it's likely they don't. So, for me, one thing that I would do in that case is, as long as they're okay with it, let them pass it on to one of the players who would know. And let that player use that knowledge, and I mean, basically,
wait. So make that practical, Rob. We got a lot of folks in here. Like, thank you everyone for joining us. And Rob, I agree, and it is difficult, Jay, to have that balancing act. But give me a specific example of how you would handle that and kind of transition that responsibility.
So say it is, something root in arcane, rooted in the arcane or such, and the player understand, the player who happens to be playing, say, a low intelligence fighter or something, understands the puzzle, but it's something that the wizard, the player who's the wizard, isn't able to figure out on their own. Let them tell let them pass on the information to the wizard, and let the wizard character wizard character be the one to have that, have their moment. Make it a role play moment, and have them role play it out. But for the sake of moving forward, because otherwise, no, who's going to want to play? Who's going to want to play the dumb character in a game like that? If them having to hold back what they understand. Just because their character can't.
Wait, do you think that's true? I mean, many people play weak characters or ugly characters or undexterous characters. Why?
Sure, but ugly doesn't keep you from being able to get to the prize behind the trap.
Well, I mentioned weak or undexterous, or I mean, there are many other weaknesses a PC could have, which the player, I could be a 300-pound hulking bodybuilder, and I might be playing a character with a strength of 10, and I can't punch through a cellophane wall. That's okay to role play, right?
Right. No, but the difference is that's not you're not expected as the weakling in the party. Nobody's expecting you to be able to punch a hole through a wall, or
and if you
the heavy gate.
And if you're playing
a character who's going to be able to do that.
So you think someone who steps to the table and everyone knows has an IQ of 160 should be expected then to play that way, even if their character has an intelligence of 10?
That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, if they have the answer, for the sake of moving the game forward, let them tell the player who's playing the character that should be able to come up with the answer, but the player isn't able to figure it out.
I don't. So does it? All right. So
and basically let them have the moment in the spotlight.
All right, so let's put that up in the chat. That's a great poll, Rob. And I'm not arguing with you, man. I love that point. This is probably the best point so far tonight. If I'm at a table and I'm a player who, it's for the mod, Manda, whoever can put this up, should a player rather, be able to tell another player whose PC has a higher intelligence, let's say, or wisdom, whatever the feat or skill is, be able to tell another player at the table something they as a player have intuited that their PC has not? Is that metagaming, or is that okay at your table? Yes, no? I don't know how to put that in a question, but you'll figure it out. We have the best mod in the world. What ways, Rob, do you design tricks and traps and puzzles so that whether or not the PCs solve or overcome them, they can still progress? I can put a bridge, a rope, a strange-looking obelisk, something in front of that it will grind to a halt. How do you keep it moving?
So here's an interesting thought. You have a puzzle. Like, say, what you can do is something like have an obstacle that needs to be, overcome. And say there's a platform on the far side of the room, and there are a number of platforms at varying intervals between them. And your goal is to get to the other side. And there's a puzzle there that says if you're able to solve this puzzle, and some way to word it, that you'll have, basically it'll be much easier to get there, or you can go the hard way if you want. Like, make it obvious that the hard way, have something where what the hard way is, but there's a puzzle here that will promises to make it easier for you if you're able to solve it. It's your reward for solving the puzzle is the very, very dangerous way that you currently are staring at gets easier.
I like that. Okay, good, Rob. So as we go on, the poll's up. I'm going to be asking Rob a handful of riddles through the rest of the night because I gave his brain a chance to warm up. And I'm sure he's going to crush these as we go. Rob, some of these are super... Go ahead.
By the way, I want to mention something. It is entirely possible, and it's not, depending on how much pressure they're feeling, it is entirely possible for a very, very smart person to just completely brain cramp.
Oh, of course. Rob, did you feel like I was going to call your entire...
No. And this is the other danger with puzzles, is that you can frustrate people. I mean, I've seen it. I've interviewed people where I've had extremely, extremely intelligent people in the technical world.
Yeah. I mean, look,
interviewed.
yeah, no.
In the technical portion, they get the first question wrong, or they can't come up with the answer, or they're not able to answer the first question, and suddenly they couldn't tell you their name if you ask them.
Blue box disclaimer. Any question that comes up from this point does not mean that Rob is not a hyper intelligent person, because we all recognize, and I'm teasing you, Rob, because it's so true. Wait, hang on. Because I saw an article yesterday that said sometimes very intelligent people are actually very quick at easy stuff, but take longer at hard stuff. There was a recent study that just came out that showed brain cognition for high IQ people. They could solve easy things quicker than non-high IQ, but would be slower with harder problems.
Well, now here's an interesting one. It kind of, I'm looking at Amanda's comment about you could also have little clues written down on paper, so I'm going to give it to the appropriate person. Now, here's the interesting part. One of the people that I'm talking about that, as soon as they failed the first question, started having issues. We were trying to lead the person to the answer by giving hints, because we knew the person should know this information and should be able to give it to us. And the more clues and more hints we gave, the worse it got. And it happened that, we tried easier questions, things that, were really, really basic. But by that point, their brain had just completely gone haywire. Couldn't answer the most basic of questions.
All right. So with that understanding, and by the way, the poll was pretty much like 5-4-2, so it was like a super even poll. Everyone's disagreeing on this point, but I think it's up to your table. I would not want. It would depend. I think it's up to your table. Rob, I speak without a mouth, and I hear. These are like, some are hard, some are easy, so these are not judging your intellect. I speak without a mouth. I hear without ears. I have no body. I come alive with the wind. What am I? That's actually a hard one. Let me give you an easier one. That one's too hard. I have cities with no houses, forests but no trees, rivers but no water. What am I? I'll read it again because I want the chat. Yeah, the map. Oh, Kai. Robert got it. Kai Hawkeye, you were first one in. The map. Yes. All right.
There you go.
Cities with no houses. Yeah.
And the thing is, I'd have to write it down because audio.
I'm the same way. Well, when you're on stream too, right? Right. You get like that panic. Like I'm on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. I'm actually asking the audience, not you, Rob. Let's do another one. What has many keys, but cannot open a single door?
A piano.
Boom. You got it. Piano. That's it. Rob was first. I can be cracked. I can be made. I can be told. And I can be played. What am I? Nope. Not an egg.
A riddle.
Close. I don't crack a riddle.
A joke.
A joke. There you go. A joke. I have a couple more, but I'll let you. Rob, anything else?
No. What
goes through towns and over hills, but never moves? I like the fingers. Roads, Bubba Kiln. Roads, that's right. What has a heart? This is kind of lame. This is something I Googled. What has a heart but does not beat? There are many answers. I'll take any answer.
An artichoke.
That was the one that was on my sheet, Rob. You got it. Boom. That's exactly right. An artichoke. Now, two more. I am not alive, but I can grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. I have no mouth, but water kills me. What am I? Gollum killed these all the time. Fire is the answer. Rob, give me one of Gollum's riddles.
I don't remember Gollum's riddles off the top of my head.
So, none of them?
I'll give you Bilbo's riddle. What's in my pocket?
What has it in its pockets is? Yes. Exactly. So, what has a key and no lid, yet golden treasure is hid? Teeth. Teeth, Boba Kiln. The answer to that one is teeth. Yes. Wow. Boba is on fire. He's asking and answering riddles. So the answer to the riddle from Gollum was, the egg.
I remember that now.
Yeah. All right. So someone else pop a riddle in the chat. We're gonna do a stump Rob here, and I've got another one. I have a neck and no beard, no head, 2 arms but no hands. What am I?
Wait, say that again?
I have a neck but no beard. I have no head but 2 arms. I have no hands. What am I? I would hate this, by the way. This is. You could ask me a riddle if you want to, Rob. I'll probably fail it miserably. No one has it in the chat.
A jug? A jug?
No, because a jug does not have 2 arms. I have a neck, no beard, no head, 2 arms, but no hands. A jacket, that would work, Kai, or a shirt. Anything like you wear it, right? No neck. It has a neck rather, but no head, no beard. Has arms, no hands. Any kind of garment that you wear, a shirt, a hood.
I'm going to give the boo hiss to that one.
That's fair enough. All right. So in the chat, let me see. What can travel the world while staying in a corner? Exactly. Tracy, let's go. She is killing it tonight. A stamp. Doesn't work in your D&D game, but...
by the way, that's one of those things where you want to have fun with that. Give that to a generation of people who
have never mailed a letter.
Anything.
Yes. Who can shave? Thank you, August. Who can shave 25 times a day and still have no beard? A barber. That is so good. I love that. I love it.
Yeah,
all right.
Barber or razor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a razor. Yeah.
The answer's the first. You know what the correct answer is? Whatever's the first one that makes sense.
Exactly. It's so true. Yes. Which isn't that true with all right. So Rob, have you ever had a riddle where keep them coming in the chat? A riddle or a puzzle where you had an idea and the players came up with something different, but you let it happen anyway?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that was the last riddle or the last puzzle I think I did. Whatever the party came up with after about 15 or 20 minutes of trying to figure it out, whatever the party came up with, as long as it reasonably worked as an answer, good on you.
But any specific example? Or
not all.
It's hard. It's hard when you're on the spot. The razor, the barber. What dries as it gets wet? The towel. We got that one. What else? Did John see my question before? It was unpinned. Oh, I'm sorry, Twy. Did I miss one? Let me go back up.
The thing that got me about the
Oh wait.
riddles.
Oh wait. Alexander had a good one here. Hager, thank you for this. I don't even know what that sub emoji thing was there. That's something new. I don't know how that happened. We missed you last night, Jeremy. I'll just say that. So Alexander asked a question. He said, a legendary blade forged of ancient steel. The wielder's prowess no enemy can conceal. With wings of might it cleaves through the air. In Greyhawk's lore, a hero's heir. What weapon am I describing? Ooh, that's a good one, Alexander.
Was that Thrommel's blade? Frerek, or
I think so. Is that right? Twitch made up some changes to their agreements. I know. I've seen that, Jay. Black Razor? Really? Are we talking
I don't know.
Melf? No.
Black Razor's
no.
not a hero's blade.
No, that was Melf. Not Melf. Elric. So beyond the lockout? Yeah. Sort of cause? No. Is that right? All right, Mikey B. While we're pondering that, who can take the rainbow in the sun and make it group as a lemon pie? Stormbringer. Yes, I was thinking Stormbringer. That right. The Sword of Cause. Yes. So Alexander's answer was answered up earlier by Greg Justinius. Well played, Greg. Well played. That was for, yeah, exactly. Well done. Question about the designing of traps, tricks, and riddles to progress the game, even if they failed. So I struggle with this. This is DMs out there, help me. I don't even have to have a trap. I have to put a bridge, a rope, something that the players aren't sure of, and they stop, they stumble, they halt. How do you help them without metagaming, without, a wandering gnome comes by and tells you you're okay? Like, how do you push them along?
Having fallen victim to this and playing in your one shot.
All right.
I'll know when you tell me.
All right, so someone do this to me when I'm a player, and I will show you. I issue that challenge. NPC character to play with the group with. Much easier if you got some sort of plan. Look, I'll defend myself. You know who can defend me? Manda. Manda can defend me. I have put out puzzles to my Greyhawk group. My Rune Lords group as well, that the players didn't catch, but Manda did, because she pays so close attention to what's happening, and she texted me right after the show. I know what the answer was, and she was engaged. A player who's engaged, they can answer, right?
I mean, they'll have the best chance, you would think. But.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. Let them take the entire session and determine what their chair is. Well, yeah, there are some of those puzzles. Let me see if I have one on my sheet here. Rob, you can ask any questions or take this in any way.
I mean, I was thinking about Twi's question. The thing is, I mentioned the traps. We talked about earlier about having a trap where the trap will kind of, if they fail to take care of the trap may push them in a particular direction. I don't know about designing traps, tricks, and riddles to progress. To progress game, even if they're failed. It's one of those things where you have to decide, well, what is the cost of them failing, and are you okay with that cost?
Yeah. So have you ever had a?
If you're not okay with the cost of them failing, then you need to reconsider whether to put said, trap, trick, riddle there, or figure out how you're going to help the PCs past it if they fail.
So Rob, let's take that from the hypothetical. Have you ever had a trap or a puzzle that your players could not progress if they did not solve? And if so, if they failed, how did you help them?
Well, I mean, again, while I'm not the biggest fan of rolling for it, if all else fails, I'll let them roll to figure it out. But I'm very careful about not having things that are going to stop the game. I'm not a fan of it. Or I'll make sure that whatever they failed at, it's not something integral to the game. It might have been a nice side quest or additional treasure, but it's not something that keeps them from their ultimate goal.
So how do you define stop the game? What's the difference to you, Rob, between a stop and a pause?
Well, that's where coming in to read your players is important. Understanding when your players are getting so frustrated that they're not having fun anymore.
Right. Yes.
And this is one of the things where you might not get it the first time, especially if you've got a group that's new to you. You may not pick up on it the first time. So
right.
Very, very careful early on. If you
newer groups, yes.
Very careful early on.
That's a good, yeah.
And puzzles and stuff.
Yeah, well said. And you got to gauge your group, right? Everyone has different levels of tolerance for this, and you don't want to throw a group that's not used to this or is, for whatever reason, not easily solving puzzles into the deep end of this. But experienced role players, I love to be challenged and push me into something that makes me think. I love those types of games. We have many good comments in the chat. So Libressinger said, I usually bring some enemies, they defeat them, but then the loot, they find some hint, alternative way to stop for the cleaners and come from maintenance. Love that. Yes, PCs often forget resources. That happens all the time. I'm not going to answer what's born sticky. Alexander says we have to say there's value in mercs and hirelings that aren't just baggage. But so yeah, that's always I am always careful, but I'd use this trope to have the NPC, the hireling, Finley as an example in Tears of Arid. He's given some hints to the party at times. I think that's okay as a DM, but I just don't like to overplay that.
By the way, you want a good puzzle that there are alternate ways for.
Yes, I do.
Out of it,
I do.
How about the good old fashioned maze?
Yes. So how do you play a maze with theater of mind, Rob? Because I know this can be done. How do you do it?
So one of the things, and this is something that I was thinking about with regards to, with regards to tools that we no longer use. And it's an idea that came to me back with the Adventurous Backpack from Trollard Games. And including in every backpack, just about every backpack, are multiple pieces of chalk. How often do you have a party actually go marking stuff so they know where they've been?
It just happened in Tears of Arid 10 weeks ago. Yeah, but other than that, not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's those kind of things. You can have, but that's also where you can use the skills that they have to help them. I mean, where you're giving that in digital information, it may not be, the most, especially for like when I played in CNC, this is where using the senses, the other senses can come into play. Something that is leading them to, what might not be the most obvious direction, but is the correct direction where they need to be, or finding ways to let them pick up on stuff that will help them. But and not only that, I mean, it's also a good time to find out if you've got a player. It's especially helpful if you have a player who likes mapping.
Yep.
It can slow things down, and you're going to need to make sure that you understand the map and what it's going to look like and how to describe it to them. But it's that kind of stuff where a puzzle is great. I mean, what we call maze is a great puzzle, just because there is a way around. There's a way through it. There may be a way to go around it if the party is is finding themselves lost. It depends on, it can be as hard or as difficult, and you can change the difficulty at any time.
Rob, let's do this. I'm your player. I'm Gleek, the Havling Gnome, and I walk into your maze. I, with trepidation, take 3 steps. My torch gutters out. I've got a small dagger. I'm 3rd level, and walk me through my maze. Let's do this live with the game.
Oh,
I'll role play it with you. I take 3 steps forward. I'm cautious. I'm trembling. I see to the right. I see to the left. I know not which way to go.
Well,
all right. Sweet luck and guardians, I will choose left.
Look, as you go to the left, just as you're turning left, you realize that to the left things sound very, very, very quiet. To the right, there is the sound of something possibly walking, treading softly on the hard stone floor.
I head with all haste to the silent left, quietly moving with stealth away from whatever sounds I'm hearing to the right. I douse my torch.
Oh, okay. Depending on which
I have infravision.
Infravision. Infravision is going to be a tough one because as you're looking in this particular direction, there is no heat signature being given off. It is very, very dark. You can almost sense the walls on either side of you, but due to your size, they are just out of reach. The ground beneath you is still the firm stone. Your hearing becomes a bit more, a bit stronger, and the silence ahead of you seems to continue, though as almost walking into a void.
My heart races. I gulp. I once again kiss my lucky charm, and I dart to the left, further away.
Well, here's the point where the darting to the left is dangerous because
I just died, right?
not necessarily died, but you suddenly find the folly of walking around in complete darkness with
Right.
nothing but infravision to carry you
Right.
when you run face first into the wall ahead of you.
Boom. Nice, very nice, very nice. Give Rob a hand. Bravo. That was nicely done on the spot. I gave him riddles. I gave him DMing tonight. Rob has crushed it. Bravo, Rob. Well played. All right, let's knock out some of the stuff in chat here tonight, and then we'll close up the evening. And Rob, I'll let you ask the questions. You can hit me with anything you want as well. Ask me any of these questions in the chat you would like.
Let's see. So, going down. Looking for actual questions. That way can mention I get some people just want to roll dice and fight, and some want a mental challenge. Yeah, that's certainly true.
Okay, so let's deal with that for a second. So in the chat, there are many, like if you want to just fight, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a style of game. At Blue Box here, sometimes our games are purely role play, and I know that's like nails on chalkboard for some people. Like they don't want to just tune in and watch people talk and emote, and I respect that too. I don't judge those folks that don't like that. I personally love role play, and I also love combat. To me, the game is both. I like all of it. I want this mix of roleplay, puzzles, combat, intrigue, danger, fighting, emotions, crying, anger, blood, gore, guts. I want all of it in my game, but not everyone is wired that way, and that's okay. Right, Rob? Or...
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm going to bang the drum again. Session 0. Session 0 is where you set those expectations, and it is perfectly okay to realize in a session 0 that you are not at the right table for you as a player. It is perfectly okay to understand that, and the thing is, that doesn't mean that the DM is not necessarily the right DM for you. It's just that this particular game may not be the one that suits the kind of game you're looking for. It should never be a contentious thing. It just should be an understanding of where you're at and the things that you're enjoying and the kind of game you're looking for, because you may decide that, you know, there's a time where you just want to roll some dice and kill some stuff and, you know, call it a good time. There may be a time where you're like, okay, no, I want all the other things too. This is how I'm feeling. and let's go for it. But the
who has not felt that cathartic? I want to roll some dice and kill some stuff, Rob. That's in all of us, right?
That was theoretically what Friday Night Crusades was supposed to start off at. It has kind of morphed since then.
But sometimes I want to roll some dice and kiss some stuff. Sometimes I want to roll some dice and negotiate, and I want to engage, and I want to solve puzzles. So, Amanda, not a shameless plug. Roll for initiative against the DM. Yes. So I'm going to pull up my Discord. I don't show this often on stream, but I think it's a fun thing to do here. There it is. All right. So Amanda had several. The Wheel of Sacrifice, a giant wheel that adventurers are required to spin in order to advance forward. The next challenge of the Wonderland. Whatever the wheel lands on, the spinner must sacrifice. Refusing to do so will result in that penalty being an extra spin on the round. Okay, I think I like that, but all of these things, again, come back to ecology, you're right? So if I'm wandering through a kobold lair and I find such a wheel, that makes no sense. So everything has to make sense in the ecology of your game. Grimtooth.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The hand, a spinner must sacrifice the finger. The eye, the spinner must sacrifice some side of the eyesight. This is really fun. Amanda, coming to a Greyhawk Awakening Book 3 Sea of Dark Sun game near you soon. Very fun challenge. So if you haven't seen this, that's in our Discord. Very fun. Tom Vantelord referenced the puzzle that I gave the group on my one-shot at Blue Box Con. Can anyone, Rob, do you know what the right move is? Hello, Mike.
Hold on. I missed Vantelord's comment.
He said, I'm looking at Discord, so the John that dance made us laugh so much. Can you do the dance, Rob?
Yeah, I have no idea what that reference is.
There was, at the very end of the game, there was a door that had to be unlocked, and it had to be unlocked. In fact, I don't think the players still know exactly why this worked, but an ethereal cat began to dance, and the players all had to dance a long time with the cat, and that opened the door. The story behind it is tragic. It's because the child and her mother used to dance there with that same thing. That's what opened the door. But yes, all my players at the table did this during Blue Box Con.
Thank you, Grim Grixis, for the raid.
Yes, thank you, Grim Grixis. We appreciate that very much. All right, so we're looking at our Discord here. If you're not on a Discord, what are you doing? Super fun stuff in here. Old school Renaissance stuff. Yeah, Twy agreed. This kind of blew up tonight. Check out the chat. There's stuff we're not even touching on here. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We appreciate that. Rob, anything else that jumped out to you in the Discord tonight?
Had not been monitoring the Discord. I've been mostly looking at the Twitch chat. Let me see.
Tracy has no idea. Yes, you do, Tracy. You absolutely know what I'm talking about. Don't lie. We got visitors here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We appreciate that. We're wrapping up as we're talking about puzzles, traps, tricks, anything that you put into your game. We acknowledge as DMs, combat is core, role play to me is the foundation of any game, but then you have the ancillary things: exploration, travel, puzzles, traps, tricks, any type of engagement that goes beyond travel, role play, and combat. And we've had some great ideas. So if any of our raiders from Grim have any ideas, tell us about a trick, a trap, or a puzzle you have put into one of your games. The trap was the succubus. Yeah, she was a trap for all. She was, Tracy. No, she was, but not a succubus. She was a special demon, only for your game. The Revenant. Sins of the Revenant. That was the name of that game. And the Revenant was a special monster. Yep. That's it. Yep. Oh, well, thank you so much, Dr. Freud. I did not know that. I'm glad you like that. Yes, the entire party perished. I don't normally do that super dark stuff, but it was pretty. Ashrin, why? Ashrin, I don't understand. I liked Ashrin. That was a good NPC. Why is Ashrin so hated on?
Oh, John Ashton is a great NPC. She will make a fantastic BBEG when you come over to my side of thinking.
Okay. Mike said some of the funniest traps were only hinted at, and the players ran with thinking. Exactly, Mike. All the hints. Don't be so modest. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. All right, we're going to wrap up. We're going to raid Jay. Thank you again to our friends that rated us. We appreciate that. Rob, you're going to have the last word tonight. As a DM, this is serious. We shepherd the table. We bring fun, engagement, and drive imagination to our players. We tell stories. No, we don't tell. We engage stories that bring life, that encourage, that excite, that sometimes make sad. How can we, give us the final word, Rob, make traps, tricks, puzzles, and riddles engaging at our game table?
Make them make sense. Make sure you understand your party. Make sure you understand your players, and make sure you understand what the consequences are if things go wrong. And are you okay with it?
That was such a good answer, but it was so not sexy. Rob, give me a like. You were right. Everything you said was right, but give me a pithy people running out of here ready to trap their characters, surprise them, do something. Anyone? Let me see if there's some in chat. It's all right. I'll give it. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna pick. So, DMs, your characters want to be challenged. Your players want to feel the thrill of something unexpected. When everything follows a trope, combat, roleplay, rest, combat, roleplay, rest, they get bored. Use these things to bring the game to life. Everyone likes to be stumped for just so long. As Rob said, if the players look bored at the table, if they look like they're not enjoying themselves, then you have to adjust. But use these tools as part of your vast tool belt as a DM to bring enjoyment to your game and make your players feel like they are doing something more than just rolling dice. And with that said, we start our raid of Lord Gazumba. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon. This weekend, Kurt, I believe, is running our Sunday game, and we appreciate all of you. Thanks for all the great chat. Blue Box out.
Bye.